I know you've been talking to investors, presenting your new plan. If I could zoom in on one area of focus, because the market's got itself very excited about the potential for obesity drugs. You are in this space. You did a deal with Carmot. What space do you think there is for Roche, given how busy it is with lots of other competition for obesity treatments?
Well, obesity will make up about 50% of the world's burden in terms of the population. So 50% of the world's population will be obese in their 30s. So that's a huge problem that we have to face as a society. The issue with obesity is that it doesn't only affect, the fact that people get overweight, but actually the problem is that it affects so many other diseases. Diseases such as cardiovascular diseases, diseases such as cancer. We know that people that are obese develop a higher chance for getting cancer. Other diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease. So you see a big link between obesity and a number of other diseases.
And that's the urgency, but there's a lot of GLP-1s out there on the market already. You've got your own play. What space do you think there is for Roche in this?
Well, on the one hand, we have very good molecules which have a very high efficacy, and they're very differentiated. We have an oral version and injectable version. And on top, we believe that the medicines that are currently on the market will actually not serve all the needs that patients have. For example, there is a reduction in muscle mass in patients with the current medicines. So how do we fix that, right? How do we fix that people can stay at the level once they reach the level that they need to reach? Yeah. So there are a lot of opportunities to address that. And on top, co-formulations with other medicines to tackle diseases in the heart, but liver, kidneys, etc. So we believe it's kind of a backbone in order to address a number of different healthcare challenges in the world.
So is this a deal story for Roche? Is this something that means you have to go out there and buy other businesses to play your role in this space?
No, in fact, when we did the acquisition, we saw that we had more than 5 different medicines that we actually want to combine the GLP-1s with. So we actually have a very good pipeline that fits to the GLP-1 GIPs.
Okay, and when you brought out some early stage data quite recently, we saw the shares rise on the back of that, but then the shares went down again on the back of some further data and some further news. The market is very volatile around these kind of research reports. Are you learning quite a lot about the best way to communicate to the market around this exciting but also slightly hyped sector?
Yeah, so whenever we have news in-house that could be market relevant, we have to communicate it. It's a legal requirement. So that's why we very much keep to what our legal colleagues tell us. And we saw it, right? We saw that once we communicated, there was a lot of, happiness and support about these kind of molecules coming to the market and having more options than just the 2 options that are available today.
Yes.
Regarding the later data that was published, one thing that people have to be careful of is not to compare apples with pears, right? This was stage 1 data. In stage 1, you actually uptitrate very fast the dose, which you would not do once you give it to patients once the medicines are on the market. So you can really make sure that the tolerability is in a very good shape if you titrate slower. And it has no effect on efficacy because the efficacy is really specific for the molecule itself.
Okay, yes, because that's a second part of the conversation was more about the ability to tolerate the medicines and how people might respond.
And they're very tolerable once you uptitrate slow.
Okay, again, just lingering on this for one more question. Zealand Pharma in focus for some people, and they have an amylin asset that you don't have. From what you've said, it doesn't sound like you want to do more deals in this sector, but some analysts are talking about whether that kind of company might be an attractive partner of some form for you.
Yeah. So we have a number of different molecules in our portfolio right now. Some of them we've disclosed, some of them we have not disclosed. So we have never said we don't have an amylin in-house. So that's the first piece. The second piece is we have, for example, an anti-latent myostatin antibody. This antibody actually helps to preserve the muscle mass for these patients. Again, the problem with patients who take these GLP-1s is they lose a lot of muscle mass. So once they stop taking it, it's worse than before because the metabolic rate has gone down even further because they need the muscles to burn that. So we have a really great asset in-house we want to combine this with. Plus, yesterday, our head of development for the cardiovascular metabolic franchise presented data on one more asset that we have not yet in the previously shown to the outside world, with which you can even get deeper response in terms of weight loss. So we have a number of things in the pipeline. Some of them we've shown.
Yes.
Two of the examples I gave. A lot we have not even disclosed yet.
OK, so it sounds like you don't need M&A on obesity.
Well, look, we are always open to look at things, right? I think that's part of the job that we have.
Yes.
We always need to look at different opportunities, but we say no to 99.999% of the topics.
OK. We are moving towards a US election, of course, and drug pricing often becomes topical. And in the run-up to that, we're seeing quite a lot of pressure on those that already play in this sector, that taking part in hearings in Washington, for example. On US drug pricing, is that, and the fact that we might see negotiations around pricing on Wegovy as early as 2025, is that influencing your thinking around the opportunity in this sector at all?
Well, first, we're an international company. So we don't only look at the US when we look at serving patients' needs. Second, in the US, we have a tradition and a history that we've always priced our new medicines below the standard of care. So we are definitely taking our responsibility to make sure that there is the right pricing in these markets.
And looking at other drugs and other opportunities, you've also indicated, I started this conversation talking about a whole range of diseases and things that you want to tackle. You've indicated an interest in antibody drug conjugates for cancer. I wonder what opportunities you see within that space.
Yes, so we just recently did a deal for ADC, so antibody drug conjugate for CMET. So there is, it's an interesting space, and we have a couple of things in our pipeline, but it's also a space which we have recently seen. It doesn't mean that everything is going to work. So you have to have your due diligence, you have to go through the different stages of clinical development, and then you have to pick the right ones. And so it's not a home run as we've seen lately as well.